The story kicks off with Rosalind Billion, the infamous villainess who crushed the world under her feet, and the beautiful seductress who allegedly devoured her fiancé. She was also the Duke's daughter, disowned by her family long ago for betraying her own blood. While waiting for her execution in prison, a guard mocks her, making fun of her titles as a villainess and a witch, reminding her that she's now just a helpless prisoner. Another man shows up and reveals his face, and she barely recognizes him. Turns out it's Baron Gilbert, who tried to assault her before. He gets pissed off by her mockery and tries to kill her, and asks her if she has a death wish. She realizes that the crown prince, who's after the throne, is the one controlling her fate now. She figures out he plans to use her public execution to calm the crowd and secure his rule. But she refuses to be a tool in his hands, deciding that if he kills her, he'll be next on the gallows. She voices her utter disdain for him, deciding she'll be the one to end this situation. When he attacks her, a mysterious hand stops him. Marquis Garin steps in to save her, pointing out to Gilbert that he's falling right into her trap. He reveals that she was trying to bait him into killing her, so he'd be executed in her place. So he flees in a panic. She confronts him since he came to visit her, coldly asking why he's here, out of pity or to gloat, since he's the one who arrested her. He replies he didn't come for either reason, but to offer her a chance. She blames him for deceiving her, pretending to protect her only to backstab her. She recalls how full of suffering her life became after being framed for treason, and how he helped her back then. Discovering his betrayal was a devastating blow to her, and out of nowhere, he asks if she believes in parallel worlds. He explains the parallel worlds theory, and how every choice creates endless branching paths. He mentions that the creator of this theory was accused of heresy, burned alive, and his books were banned, but she mocks his words, calling it complete nonsense. He tells her she definitely has moments of regret, wishing she had made different choices. Then he offers her a chance to live, calling her his greatest rival. Suddenly, she starts coughing up blood as it pours out of her, having stabbed herself with a poisoned dagger. She's surprised that he didn't even notice what she did to herself. She had taken a poison called hemocrurus, which prevents blood clotting and makes wounds bleed nonstop. With that, she declares her final victory over him. She admits to him that she was lonely, but felt a bit of happiness in his company. And when he asks if she wants to live, her final answer is no. She dies, leaving him completely shocked by the surprise she pulled on him. He smiles as he says goodbye, telling her he'll see her soon and calling her his rival. She thinks everything is finally over and that she'll get eternal rest. But suddenly, she hears a lot of noise around her and wonders where it's coming from. She realizes she's not dead like she's supposed to be. She wakes up to find herself in a luxurious bedroom, and a maid screams out that the young lady has opened her eyes. An angry-looking lady shows up and scolds her for stirring up trouble again. She recognizes her voice. It's Madame Carmel, and she wonders why she's standing in front of her. She remembers that this is her second stepmother, the woman who ruined her family and killed her a long time ago. She notices her body has absolutely no scars, and even her missing eye is back. She realizes she's in her old room at the Duke's mansion, a place that should have vanished ages ago. Carmel keeps lecturing her and calls her disgraceful. Then she screams in her face, asking if making a scene with a suicide attempt wasn't enough. Rosalind finds the word suicide weird. She'd never do something so cowardly. She prefers to fight. She feels like everyone is calling her Rosalind, but they're talking about a completely different person. She remembers Garen's words about parallel worlds, and she realizes with a flash of anger that parallel worlds are real. She cuts off her screaming, calling her loud and annoying. Carmel is shocked by her comeback. Rosalind coldly tells her to take the conversation outside her room, comparing her to a pesky mosquito. Carmel is stunned by this sudden change in personality, since the Rosalind she knew was shy and introverted. She gets furious and screams, asking how she dares speak so disrespectfully to her mother. The other calmly replies, pointing out that to be exact, she's just her future stepmother since the wedding hasn't even happened yet. Then she tells her to stop bothering her, and she tells her she doesn't care what she does, whether she brings in spies to sell the Duke's secrets or slowly poisons her father to kill him. Carmel is completely shocked, wondering how she found out about her plan. A maid steps in to defend her mistress, but Rosalind grabs her. She snaps at her, saying she's the Duke's daughter and a maid has no right to lecture her. Madame Carmel screams, asking what she thinks she's doing. Rosalind tells the maid she clearly didn't get her earlier warning. She explains that "don't bother me" means she'll send anyone who annoys her straight to the abyss. The maid begs for mercy. Rosalind orders Carmel to take her stupid maid and get out of her room. She leaves, vowing she won't let this slide. Having gotten rid of the nuisance, she decides to gather info to make sure this is actually a parallel world. She finds that her only decent outfit is a single simple dress. She realizes the rest of her clothes are old and worn out, definitely Madame Carmel's doing. She decides to deal with it just for today. She notices she looks pale and sickly no matter how much she tries to look nice. She feels her current look is even worse than when she was 17 in her previous world. After 3 days of digging up info, she comes to a conclusion. She's now in a parallel world, about 10 years before her death, and her current age is 17. In this world, the people and events are similar to her original world, but with minor changes. For example, her situation here is miserable. Despite being the Duke's only daughter, she's treated with neglect and given shabby clothes. Even the servants look down on her, unlike her past life where everyone feared her. Still, she considers this life better than being a wanted fugitive, and her goal in her second life is just to live quietly. To live a normal, comfortable life, Rosalind realizes she needs to take control of a lot of things in her new life. At a family dinner, the servants are shocked by her presence, so she calmly tells them she was invited too. The others notice her sudden transformation, wondering how the gloomy daughter of the Duke changed this much overnight. As soon as she steps into the dining hall, dead silence fills the room. She finds her grandfather, Duke Devon Billion, at the head of the table, and next to him is her uncle Aegis Billion, the Duke's eldest son. Her biological father, Churty Billion, was also there. Rosalind remembers that in her original world, the Billion family collapsed 5 years ago, and all these people were already dead. Seeing them again gives her a tiny spark of happiness, so she decides to push back her plan to leave the mansion for a few days. Madame Carmel ruins the mood, scolding Rosalind for her outfit, which she considers inappropriate. She keeps criticizing her and lecturing her on how to act like a noble lady. Rosalind snaps back with cold sarcasm, asking what's wrong with her clothes. Knowing Carmel's attempts to dominate the situation are going to fail, then she verbally tears her apart, reminding her of her past as a woman who killed her ex-husband and seized his property, pointing out she doesn't have a single noble quality to teach others. She keeps humiliating her, comparing Carmel's background as a commoner who became noble through adoption and marriage with her own status as a duke's granddaughter by birth, making it clear her plans won't work while she's around. Carmel breaks down in tears, complaining to the Duke and Rosalind's father about her behavior. The Duke steps in firmly, ordering everyone to shut up and eat. Rosalind is glad to see her grandfather's fierce personality hasn't changed, while Carmel tries to win the sympathy of those around her. She takes a bite of her food and declares it's absolutely delicious. Then she shocks the servants by offering to share her food with them. Then she offers her uncle and father to taste her food too, which catches them completely off guard. Her uncle Aegis agrees, considering it the first thing his niece has ever asked for. Carmel objects, accusing him of spoiling Rosalind way too much. Aegis fires back sharply, reminding her she hasn't officially become part of the family yet, and as an outsider, she has no right to meddle in his business. He asks Rosalind for backup, and she agrees, noting to herself that he's actually warm toward his family members. She gives her uncle a bite, thinking he's an interesting character whose vibe changes with his facial expressions. She recalls that despite his playful appearance, he shouldered the family responsibility after the death of the Duke and the young Duke. He was a man with a deep sense of duty who tried to protect the family until the very end, though despite his efforts, the family eventually collapsed. After Aegis tastes the food, he confirms it's indeed delicious and suggests his father and younger brother try it. Aegis playfully insists that the Duke tries the food, which pisses the old man off. The Duke thinks someone is trying to pull a trick on him, angrily demanding to know who has a death wish. Rosalind calmly points to the maids who had been mocking her since the start of dinner. The Duke orders the maids to be fired immediately while they protest their innocence. They beg Madame Carmel for help, but she looks tense and ignores them. Rosalind's father expresses his annoyance, while Carmel apologizes to the Duke, claiming the maids acted on their own out of loyalty to her. Rosalind comments sarcastically, comparing their loyalty to that of the Macroxia criminal organization. The Duke wonders why she mentioned this evil organization, while Carmel is completely shocked. Rosalind recalls her intel on Macroxia, a secret criminal organization that uses chess piece ranks. In her past world, they operated in the shadows, but they grew rapidly after seizing the Billion family's business. Their method was ruining noble families by planting spies and stealing their secrets, artisans, and clients. She adds that their members' loyalty was incredibly strong, then drops a direct question on Carmel. Rosalind stuns her by calling her the Bishop of the Macroxia organization, reminding her that she warned her not to bother her. To prove her words, she asks them to check Carmel's heel, where members carry a secret tattoo that shows up at a certain temperature. Carmel panics, wondering how on earth Rosalind knows the organization's secrets. Carmel decides to face the situation head-on. She starts crying and begs Rosalind's father, claiming she never loved anyone but him. Cherty looks confused and unable to make a decision. He tells the Duke he'll look into the matter himself and tries to take Carmel and leave. Rosalind thinks to herself that her father is under the influence of the hypnosis Carmel uses, which is what's causing his chest pain. She tells them that Macroxia specializes in sending spies skilled in memorization and hypnosis. Cherty starts remembering vague orders telling him to eliminate anyone who opposed Carmel, even if they were his own family. He realizes he was a victim of manipulation, wondering when all of this even started. Carmel realizes her plan is blown and she needs to get rid of Rosalind right away. She tries to smooth things over, claiming there's a misunderstanding. She invites Rosalind to her room to talk quietly and tries to touch her. Rosalind stops her and asks the butler to check Carmel's wrist, causing something to drop from her hand. Everyone assumes it's a weapon or a poison needle, realizing Rosalind was telling the truth the whole time. The Duke angrily orders Carmel to be dragged away immediately. As she's being dragged out, Carmel sees a smirk on Rosalind's face and calls her a wretched girl. She realizes there was something off about her from the very start. Carmel angrily asks Rosalind who she really is and how she found out, but Rosalind sarcastically replies, asking if she's finally dropped the act. Carmel lunges at her, screaming that she'll kill her with her own hands. The butler orders her to be taken away and blindfolded, following Rosalind's advance instructions. Rosalind thinks to herself that she knows this because Macroxia tried to recruit her as their queen in her past life. After getting rid of Carmel, she apologizes to the family for the disturbance she caused. Her uncle Aegis laughs, praising what she did, saying his gut feeling about that woman was right. She expresses her happiness for helping, then announces her desire to leave the mansion soon, catching her father off guard. She explains she doesn't own any personal belongings and asks to take some jewelry with her when she leaves. For the first time, her father asks her about her sudden wish to leave. Rosalind is surprised he's even talking to her, since she barely remembers them speaking a few times across both her lives. She understands his worry and reassures him she'll leave the entire empire to live quietly and won't cause any scandal for the Billion family. He clarifies he didn't mean that, but was just worried about her sudden decision when she's so weak. Rosalind tells him she knows he doesn't trust her, promising to remove her name from the family registry before leaving. She gratefully recalls how he raised her and never abandoned her despite being an illegitimate, sickly child, feeling sorry she couldn't attend his funeral in her past life. Deep down, she's still that lonely little girl who couldn't leave her bed because of her fragile body. She remembers spending her days alone, wishing a family member would visit her just once. Now she no longer wants to cling to false hopes. All she wants is to go somewhere nobody knows her to finally find peace. She adds that her final duty is to personally inform the imperial family about breaking off her engagement with the third prince. Her father slams the table in anger, refusing her request. He yells in her face that an engagement with the imperial family is no small joke, ordering her back to her room to take her medicine. He reminds her of the huge mess she recently made that turned the family into a laughingstock. Then her father leaves in a rage. Her uncle realizes things are about to kick off. Aegis tries to calm Rosalind down, explaining that her father doesn't hate her. He's just an introvert who sucks at expressing his feelings. Rosalind thanks him for understanding, but catches him off guard by calling him young master instead of uncle. She explains she did it on purpose to annoy Madame Carmel, then leaves. After she leaves, Aegis laughs, totally digging his niece's new personality. The Duke scolds his son for laughing, snapping that the situation isn't funny. He replies that everything happening is actually the Duke's fault to begin with. He adds that he inherited his playful personality from him, and that the Duke ruined his younger son to the point of turning him into a gloomy guy. Aegis keeps blaming the Duke, reminding him that he warned him repeatedly about Madame Carmel, but he wouldn't listen, straight up telling him he's the one destroying the family. The Duke gets furious at his words, leaving while ordering him to stop his only granddaughter from running away and fix the mess he caused, criticizing them for not acting like responsible heirs. On his way out, he thinks that maybe they should have cared more, deciding to help his desperate brother Cherty, even if starting now. A few days later, Rosalind receives flowers and a card from the young Duke again. She wonders about the reason for this sudden attention from him ever since that dinner. Her room has become completely packed with the flowers he sends daily, and the cards he sends with them always contain lame excuses like, found it by chance, or it was on sale. She sees a kind of warning in these bizarre messages, for she fully knows that her value to her father doesn't exceed being something he just stumbled upon by chance. She orders the maid to throw out all the flowers, declaring that their scent is suffocating her, and bans any more flowers from coming in the future. Right after that, the butler tells her that her carriage is ready, so she gets ready to leave immediately. The maids wonder why she's wearing a black dress to the imperial palace, a color usually linked to funerals. Another maid explains that she ordered to get rid of all the worn-out clothes Madame Carmel filled her closet with, leaving nothing but black dresses. The maids realize they need to watch their mouths when talking about her, especially after what happened to Madame Carmel. She's definitely no longer that shy, gloomy girl. Rosalind arrives at the imperial palace, thinking she never imagined she'd return here all by herself. She wonders how much time has passed since she last saw the third prince. She finds him waiting for her, Prince Arma Dianitas. She greets him formally, so he chides her for being stiff and reminds her of her promise to be less formal with him. He expresses his worry after hearing about what happened to her, inviting her to sit down. She reassures him she's fine now, apologizing as his fiancé for making him worry. She tells him she has something important to say. Then she proposes they break off their engagement. The prince is shocked, wondering about the reason behind her sudden decision. She assures him it's her own selfish decision, asking him to arrange a meeting with the emperor so she can explain everything. He drops to his knees before her, rejecting the idea and begging her to tell him what she wants instead. He insists he'll find a solution, asking her to at least tell him the reason. She thinks to herself that she didn't expect such a flat-out rejection from him, especially since their relationship is weak right now. But she remembers she owes him a massive debt. In her past life, after she left the Duke's mansion, he secretly searched for her, ran away with her, and died protecting her. So all she wants for him now is to find happiness with someone else. She sees herself as a cold person who doesn't suit him. She coldly tells him to stop acting so pathetic, because it only makes her hate him more. She describes the type of man she prefers: someone promising, fiercely independent, manly, and a bit violent. She bluntly adds that he doesn't fit this description, asking him to let her go. As she's about to leave, he stops her, and he begs her not to go, promising to set up a meeting with his father, the emperor. She thanks him for understanding, while she thinks to herself that her decision doesn't stem from hating him or feeling he's beneath her. She remembers he was always a loyal man who silently stayed by her side, even when she pushed him away. She believes that stepping away from him now is the right choice for his sake, even if it hurts. As she walks away, he calls out to her, asking if they can at least stay friends after calling off the engagement. She warns him that it would ruin her reputation. She walks out, while he tries to catch up, begging her. Suddenly, someone pops up and stops her, and she recognizes him, the person she hates seeing more than anyone else. It's the second prince, Yuldian Dianitas, who mocks them, calling them the most pathetic lovers of the century in the world. He calls his little brother a coward who couldn't hurt a fly, and Rosalind a gloomy, stuttering lady. Then he suddenly changes his mind, grabbing her while admiring her beauty and new charm. The third prince steps in to defend her, warning his brother about his lack of respect. The second prince scoffs and punches him. He asks him mockingly if he's rebelling against his older brother just because his fiancée is watching. Then he kicks his brother hard, asserting that he does whatever he wants, ordering him to follow commands without any argument. The third prince tries to get up, asserting she isn't his brother's property, yelling that she is his person. The second prince gets furious and threatens to kill him. As he goes to strike again, the third prince tells her to run, reassuring her he'll handle it. She thinks about his foolishness. Even in this world, he doesn't ignore the injustice happening to others. She steps in and stops the second prince, completely stunning him. She tells the third prince to stand up and thanks him, then tells him she no longer needs to arrange a meeting with the emperor. She smiles, saying she found a faster way to meet him. Then she slaps the second prince hard across the face. He's shocked, accusing her of attempting to murder a member of the royal family. She coldly fires back that he shouldn't have messed with her fiancé because it annoys her. He reminds her that he's royalty too, so she answers that the third prince is as well. He mocks her, asking how a bastard from an unknown mother could be considered royalty. Then he adds that rumors say she's a bastard too, making them a perfect match for each other. She tells him he still hasn't come to his senses. Then she slaps him again, sarcastically apologizing that her hand slipped. She adds that she has a habit of hitting anyone who talks trash, and since a dumb dog keeps biting her fiancé, she has no other choice. The second prince blows his top and moves to hit her. She thinks to herself that she needs to take at least one hit so the emperor can easily settle the incident later. But before his hand reaches her, the third prince jumps in and takes the hit for her. She notices he's bleeding and blames him for interfering. He laughs, saying he couldn't let her get hurt, so she describes him to herself as a loyal fool. The second prince mocks their little drama, but right at that moment, a messenger from the emperor arrives. The messenger tells him that the emperor expects a fitting punishment for what happened. The emperor orders the second prince to be placed under probation until he's summoned. He flies into a rage, considering himself the victim, accusing her of hitting him repeatedly. The messenger calmly tells him to follow orders. The second prince screams that the emperor only cares about his older brother and that bastard. Then he storms off, yelling at the onlookers who were watching the scene. The messenger informs Rosalind and the third prince that the emperor has ordered them to come now. But he clarifies that the person wanted for the audience isn't the third prince, but Lady Billion. Rosalind smirks, considering the outcome isn't bad at all, given that her hands and ears sting just a bit. She asks the messenger to lead her to the emperor. The third prince tries to tag along, but she refuses and tells him to go see a doctor, saying it would be embarrassing for her fiancé to show up looking like that. Rosalind leaves behind the messenger, while the prince watches her shyly. She goes in to meet the emperor, Severus Jean Dionysus, who notices that she looks different. She gives him a formal greeting, and he laughs, calling it weird and awkward given the amusing incident she just caused. He's curious about why she made such a scene, especially since she always used to put her own safety first. She tells him she caused this scene because she has something important to tell him in private. Then she announces her desire to break off her engagement with the third prince. He invites her to sit and orders tea to be served. Once the servants leave, he straight up asks her why she wants to end the engagement, so she makes him an offer. If he agrees to her request, she'll solve two of his biggest problems. She names the two problems: the negotiations with the country of Kalata on the northern border, and the recent disappearances happening all over the empire. He's shocked that she knows about these classified matters and figures there's a major info leak inside his palace. At this moment, she's relying on her knowledge from her past life, betting that major events in this world will play out almost the exact same way. Of course, she can't tell him that, so she claims she awakened a special ability after the recent incident. He asks if she means she became an Abyss user, and she confirms it. The Abyss is a supernatural power that manifests unexpectedly, and since it usually shows up in life or death situations, her alleged suicide attempt is the perfect cover story. He congratulates her on the great news, and she tells him he's the first to know. He asks what kind of ability she has that makes her think she can solve problems he couldn't handle himself. She replies that he's not incapable of solving them, but rather wants to handle them quietly and peacefully. Then she catches him off guard by mentioning the purge he's planning. He laughs, admitting she's put him in a tight spot, while she thinks to herself that she finally succeeded in seeing his true colors. She remembers this emperor is nicknamed the Clown Emperor because he's always smiling and laying low. But about a year from now, he will personally lead a bloody purge against the nobles, where 2/3 of them will be killed or have their wealth confiscated, and not even the Billion family survived it. She tells him she knows her family members, especially her reckless uncle, are among the targets, and in return, she asks him to spare the direct Billion bloodline. He points out that she's asking him to protect her family right after asking to break off the engagement, seeing the deal as unfavorable to him. She fires back that her worthless uncle is still a useful, useless person, and that her offer is solid. She adds that their engagement, though a hot topic, was basically meant to show the strong bond between the imperial family and hers. She assures him that he knows damn well her family would never betray the imperial family, even without a marriage. He agrees on the condition that she handles everything to his satisfaction. He expresses his disappointment that she dislikes his son, whom he considers handsome despite his shyness, but she snaps back that she's too good to be with someone like him. Before leaving, she asks him to keep everything they discussed a secret, including her ability. He agrees and offers her compensation for the second prince incident, but she declines and asks for another favor instead. She feels exhausted after trying to hold her ground in front of him. She finds the prince waiting for her outside, and he asks if her chat with his father went well, catching her off guard with his calm presence. She asks if his father summoned him, and he says yes. Then he eagerly asks if he's now a fiancé she won't be ashamed of after getting the proper treatment. He offers to let her check his bandages. She agrees to touch his face, telling him that from now on he shouldn't protect her. She reveals that she deliberately got hit earlier. He's shocked and asks why, so she explains that her actions could have been seen as an insult to royalty or even attempted murder, which is exactly what the second prince said. She thinks to herself that even if she got into trouble, there's nothing he could do to help her, so she asks him not to step in for her anymore. She says goodbye, and when he asks if he'll see her again, she answers yes. She thinks there's no need to apologize. He didn't walk her out because of her own stubbornness. As she leaves, someone suddenly appears. It's Garen Wilbrid, who was waiting for her. Somewhere else, the third prince goes in to see the emperor. The prince apologizes for not visiting often. The emperor tells him not to say things he doesn't mean, adding that he dismissed everyone so they could talk freely. The prince pretends to be flustered. The emperor mocks his son and his fiancé's behavior, straight up asking him what he came for. The prince asks his father what they talked about. The emperor tells him what happened. He tells him she warned him not to cross any red lines again, that he ordered her to attend the imperial banquet, and that she mentioned wanting to break off the engagement. The prince asks why, And the emperor replies that he agreed because she offered to solve one of his problems in return, striking a deal with her. The emperor sees that her value right now completely outweighs his son's. The prince asks about her offer, but his father refuses to spill because he promised her. The prince blackmails him, saying that since he drank the tea he brought, he has to tell him. The emperor reveals that Rosalind promised to solve the Collada negotiation problem and investigate the disappearances. The prince realizes she really has changed, since she used to be afraid of even making eye contact. The emperor thinks to himself that he doesn't mind this change as long as it doesn't cause any harm. He announces that next month Lady Billion will join the Collada delegation. The prince announces he'll go with her. The emperor sighs, warning him that if he joins them, he'll be the one in charge, asking if he gets what that means. He replies that he doesn't care about the throne, so his father comments that an unambitious man has no charm. Then he tells him he won't be going anyway, because she already chose who's accompanying her, and shocks him by revealing that the one going is his older brother, Yoldian. But elsewhere, Rosalind is browsing a jewelry store, announcing she'll buy everything in the display case. Then she decides to buy all the outfits on display too. The shop owner is amazed by her generosity, while rumors spread that Lady Billion isn't what people say she is. She asks for a red dress and hat, wondering who started the rumor that she was so shy she couldn't even lift her head. The staff notice that despite her random picking, she's choosing the finest pieces in the shop, admiring her high taste. One lady wonders about her relationship with Marquis Guérin, famous for his business savvy. Turns out they are at Boutique Blois, the most luxurious boutique in the empire. It's an exclusive boutique that operates on reservation only and never leaves its headquarters except by order of the imperial family. But things change when someone decides to buy everything in the store, which is exactly what she did. Guérin invites her to his mansion to discuss several matters, and Rosalind agrees. The shop owner, Baron Blois, offers her a dress as a gift to show his gratitude. She accepts the gift, praising the quality and design of his merchandise, pointing out that he must see and hear a lot through his work. The Baron assures her that the mouths of his store employees are tightly shut. She trusts him and asks for everything to be sent to the Billion Mansion. When it comes to payment, Guérin pulls out a legendary blank check. He explains that the total amount is 8 million Orlang, but the check is worth $1 billion. He tells them to consider the rest in advance payment for any beautiful dress they make in the future. The Baron thanks him for his trust, assuring that he or the Marquis will come to them whenever they are called. Guérin and Rosalind leave. She whispers to Guérin that there are troubling rumors coming from the south, advising him to change his business partners. The Baron is surprised by her interference. Rosalind wonders to herself if she has decided to be a good, kind person in this life, then answers that she paid in advance. And if this place gets tangled up in a drug scandal and shuts down in a year, it would be annoying. She adds that she has always been nice, and that's exactly why she hasn't killed Guérin yet, even though he's the one who threw her into hell in her past life. He tells her he knows what she's thinking and that nice people don't kill others. She shoots back that truly good and kind people are the ones to be feared, because the moment their sense of justice and kindness shatters, they can draw their sword without hesitation. He agrees with her, admitting there's nothing more dangerous than unyielding justice and obsessive kindness, then suggests they continue their chat on the way. He asks her how dying felt, and she answers it was refreshing, but she's annoyed now because it brought her back to this weird world. He comments on how bizarre this world is, since they ended up in a parallel world similar to theirs, except she's weak and stuttering here, which is weird in itself. She tells him that after arriving, she investigated this world to use her knowledge from her original world. Luckily, the two worlds were very similar, and after finishing investigating herself, she started looking into him too. She reminds him that he said her death as a villainess would be a waste, but the truth is they were never close, unless he meant their mutual desire to kill each other. So she started wondering why he came to this world, and that he must have a goal too. Then she reveals she found the biggest difference between the two worlds for him. In this world, the Marchioness is still alive. She straight up asks him if the relationship he wanted to change was his relationship with her. She admits she never expected him to cross into a parallel world, then asks about the fate of the original owners of their bodies. He reassures her that the condition for world traveling is that the body must already be dead but left intact. Then he adds that he never thought about stabbing her in the neck, though she was definitely thinking that about him. She fires back that she already knows her counterpart in this world attempted suicide, but she'll be surprised his counterpart was that type too. She asks him how he managed to travel across worlds with someone who already died, especially since his abyss ability was just tied to tracking. He asks her to tell him her hypothesis first. She refuses, much to his disappointment, telling him that the $1 billion she blackmailed out of him is barely enough to repay the debt of bringing someone who wanted to die back to life. He asks her to tell him just for their entertainment until they reach the mansion. She agrees and straight up asks him if he made a deal with the devil. He smirks, admitting she just exposed his cards. She recalls seeing a green flame right before she died, and green flames are the symbol of devils. She heard there are devils who can create parallel worlds, send the dead back, and travel across dimensions, which can't be explained by tracking ability alone. So, she concluded he isn't a real abyss user, but rather borrowed the power of another transcendent being. She assures him that having the power isn't what matters, but its source. She asks him for the truth, and he gives a wicked smile. She goes back disappointed since her chat with him didn't yield much, and it turned into just a useless scandal a few days later. News spread in the papers about a dangerous meeting between Marquis Guérin and the humble lady of the Billion family, sparking rumors of a rift between the Marquis and his wife. Baron Blois apologizes to her for the article, insisting his shop didn't leak any info. She tells him she knows that, and she actually expected a scandal like this. She adds that with so many people on the streets, anyone could have seen them, and tells him to leave since she's had enough apologies. She thinks to herself that things got a little out of hand because she tried to mess with Guérin, and Prince Arma must have been totally shocked. But she sees this as working in her favor, since it'll be easier to use these rumors as an excuse to break off the engagement. Plus, this scandal will be annoying for Guérin, who's trying to fix his relationship with his wife, so he'll try to quiet down the rumors himself. She returns to the mansion to explain the situation to her family to avoid any misunderstanding. Her father catches her off guard with his anger, objecting to her relationship with a married man. Her second brother, Ian Billion, appears and mocks her, thinking she used to be gloomy but has now started causing trouble and playing with fire. She recalls that Ian was known as a scoundrel for getting into numerous incidents and was a target of the royal purge in her past world, but the Emperor spared his life as promised. She realizes that even if fate follows the same path as her past life, her success in kicking out Carmel means the Billion family won't fall, so she won't get a chance to save him. Her father keeps scolding her, so she answers that she has no such relationship with Guérin. He flies into a rage because she called him by his first name. She clarifies that they are just random acquaintances. He warns her that Guérin is a man with unknown intentions. She wonders about his sudden interest in her, since he was always cold toward her affairs. She tells him she isn't doing anything to lower the family's status, and she hasn't forgotten her place even without him reminding her with letters and flowers. She tells him his sudden care has become a burden. She remembers how in her childhood she wished her father would hug her just once, but she learned to give up from his scary face. After all, she's just an illegitimate child. She realizes her father doesn't love her, neither in her original world nor here, and she got rid of any attachment to him a long time ago. She tells him she's grateful he raised her, but there's no need to care about a daughter he has no affection for, and she won't be a burden to the family. He seems shaken and tries to say something. She decides to use the family gathering to announce something big. She announces she's breaking off her engagement with the third prince, shocking everyone. Her grandfather asks if the emperor agreed. She thinks to herself that this terrifying man, who could lie in wait for 10 years just for one hunt, wouldn't allow a marriage cancellation that strengthens the royal family's position. She assures them the emperor agreed, and that she made a promise to him. She'll handle the negotiations with Kalata and solve the disappearance cases in the capital. She announces she'll leave for Kalata soon, causing her grandfather and her uncle to yell at her. She explains that Marquis Guérin will accompany her, and that as compensation for a mistake he made at a previous banquet, she demanded clothes from him. Her uncle asks what she means by her closet being empty. She tells them Madame Carmel took or ruined all her clothes and accessories. Her father gets furious at that woman's audacity. She tells him the blame is on her for not speaking up, so there's no need to get angry. She explains that this world's Rosalind probably thought silence was a form of rebellion and was afraid of being called weak if she spoke, especially in a mansion where no one was on her side. But she is different now. She died and came back to life, realizing she has nothing left to lose. She finishes her sentence, and her uncle looks at her, weirded out by how she talks about herself like another person. Her father is pained by her decision to leave the family, realizing she plans to never see him again. But deep down, Churdy admits he always wanted to get close to his daughter Rosalind, yet everyone he loved slipped through his fingers like sand. He reveals a tragic truth. He was born as an abyss user with the supernatural power to control poison, and because of this power, he killed his mother the moment he was born. Then he killed his beloved wife, leaving him no choice but to distance himself from her too, fearing that the shadow of death chasing him would reach her. He feels pain because he couldn't protect her even from afar. Instead, he was manipulated by Carmel to crush his daughter's pain even more. And now, she's all he has left, and he can't let her go too. This internal conflict makes him lose control of his toxic ability, which starts dangerously exploding around him. She recognizes her father's power and wonders about its sudden appearance. He collapses, feeling ashamed that his power leaked out again without him realizing. He feels humiliated that she sees him in this miserable state, but he thinks this might be for the best. If she hates and despises him more, she'll stay away. And in the end, she'll be safe. And that's enough for him. When she tries to get close to him, her uncles Ian and Aegis stop her, warning her that she might die. She orders them to stay away from her, threatening to summon Abyss Knights who can handle this situation. She lectures them on their usual way of locking him up and waiting for him to calm down, asserting that this avoidance is exactly why the problem is never solved. She approaches her father and asks him to calm down and listen to her voice. She warns him that if he doesn't control his energy, she'll be the one to die in the end. Churdy is shocked by her words and closeness, wondering how long it's been since he looked at her from this near. He remembers their relationship wasn't good, so he never paid attention to her before. But looking at it now, he realizes it makes no sense for someone who controls poison to suffer from poisoning and starts questioning the true nature of his power. Rosalind asks her father, questioning that if someone has immunity to all the world's poisons but died of poison, what could be the reason for that? Churdy is shocked, thinking she's talking about herself, completely missing her point. He answers her that the reason is that person's body simply gave up and stopped detoxifying. She thinks to herself that she expected this. This is the real reason why her father succumbed to Carmel's poison despite his immunity. He simply gave up on life. After losing everyone he loved, just staying alive became a curse to him. She realizes the bitter truth. She always thought her father hated her, and that her existence was worthless to him. Shocked by this revelation, he approaches her, asking how much she knows. At this moment, she seizes the chance and forces him to swallow something. She tells him she gave him a super powerful sedative for Abyss users that will be developed in a few years, called the Dreamer. This was the drug Carmel smuggled and the Macroxia organization exploited in her past life. Since it didn't exist in this world yet, she prepared it in advance based on her knowledge, and it was a smart move. The medicine seems effective. As her father calms down and loses consciousness, she orders the servants to move him to his bedroom and clean up the place. Then she leaves to change her shoes and clean her skirt. She thinks she was lucky to prepare the medicine in advance because her feet literally almost melted. She notices everyone staring at her. She realizes she completely forgot the rest of the family was there and tells them their father will regain consciousness soon, so there's no need to worry. She decides to use their gathering to tell them something else. The No Lang mine will be auctioned soon, and it would be wise to buy it. Her uncle Aegis is surprised, pointing out the place is worthless. So she reveals to him that Marquis Garin plans to bid around 1 billion Orlang on it, so they must bid 2.5 billion to guarantee a win. Her brother Ian mocks her idea, calling her crazy since the mine only produces cheap amber stones. She tells them buying it now is the cheapest price they'll ever get, but the choice is ultimately up to them. Her grandfather, the Duke, calls out to her and asks her to call him Grandpa, expressing his sadness that his only granddaughter is distant. He complains that his friends' granddaughters act sweet and go shopping with their grandpas. She coldly asks him if he really wants her to act that way. He sighs, admitting he's late in saying what needs to be said, and advises her not to carry hard things alone and to ask for his help. She replies that whining only doubles the number of annoyed people, and that she solved the problem herself. He sighs again, lamenting that he wasn't blessed with affectionate grandchildren. She tells them that when she gets ready to go to Collada, she'll stay at Marquis Garen's villa, since they have a lot of work to do together. Ian objects, warning her about the danger of Collada, describing it as a place crawling with savage, man-eating monsters. She mocks him, wondering if he really believes that ridiculous rumor, shocking him with her reaction. Her uncle Aegis also opposes her moving out to live alone, but she reassures him that Marquis Garin will assign guards for her. Ian asks her why Garin cares about her and about the nature of their relationship. She immediately replies with, yes, which shocks him. Then she thinks to herself sarcastically, considering that since they crossed over together to this parallel world, there must be some kind of relationship connecting them. Then she announces she's leaving because she has a lot of work to do. He tries to stop her, but she ignores him, thinking about how annoying they are. She stops and calmly tells her grandfather that her second uncle is also a member of Macroxia, with the rank of Rook, and the proof is on the sole of his foot, just like Carmel. She asks him to check for himself, adding with a smile that it'll be a very intimate time. Ian is shocked by her words, while the Duke sternly asks him if this claim is true. He tries to deny it, but the Duke orders him to explain himself thoroughly. Somewhere else, in a secret meeting of the Macroxia organization, news arrives of the capture of the 12th bishop and the exposure of the young master, Ian. A member comments that the bishop's ability was useful, and the young master was a valuable asset, but nothing can be done now. The leader orders them to get rid of the bishop and keep an eye on the young master. He adds that security at the Billion Mansion is extremely tight, and everyone entering or leaving the prison carries soul stones, meaning they might have discovered the abilities too. Info is completely blocked, so it's hard to know what happened. The leader wonders what went wrong, since the Billion Palace was the biggest part of their plan. The subordinate tells him that other families are still quiet. The leader orders to find out what's going on and get rid of the useless fool Ian before he talks. He reminds them of their noble cause. Drag the nobles down from the sky and trample them on the ground, vowing to fulfill their wishes. Rosalind receives a letter from her father, apologizing for his past gifts, assuring her he chose them himself while thinking of her. He begs her not to go to Kalata and not to leave him. She thinks about how her father has become so brutally honest, and how this honesty changed everything, wishing she had tried telling them her feelings in her past life. She remembers that after realizing enduring everything wasn't the answer, she became violent. She believed she had to give tit for tat to win. Since her family didn't care about her, the only way to protect her pride was to act harsh. But what followed was endless rumors and people hating her. And when she left the Duke's mansion, they started taking revenge on her. In the end, she became poor, so she gathered info on her enemies and sold it to fund her escape and revenge. She never hesitated to use people and throw them away. She recalls hiding in a village, then leaving them to be slaughtered by the empire that was hunting her down. She just wanted to live, even if she had to ignore her guilt. But this regret still haunts her even in her second life. She wonders if she had asked for help and affection from her family, would her life have been different? But she realizes this is a useless what-if now, telling herself that what's ahead is more important than dwelling on the past. Looking at the invitation she received, she decides to attend the Imperial Palace banquet to show that the Billion family is still their ally. Then her eyes catch a letter from Prince Arma. In his letter, the prince asks to visit the Billion mansion. He tells her he has a gift for her and something important to tell her. She thinks he's polite as usual and feels bad for turning him down, guessing he wants to ask her to reconsider breaking off the engagement. She decides to decline his request, since a private meeting between them is no longer appropriate. Then she opens another letter addressed to her, finding it's from Garen. It tells her that he failed to win the Nolang mine, and that information belongs to whoever uses it first. She thinks things are going exactly as she expected, and she can handle the rest using the info she gathered. A maid tells her the Duke is looking for her. She figures out he must know the truth about the mine now. She remembers that someone connected to the mine will definitely attend the Imperial banquet. She remembers Baron Robert. She thinks about how she'll meet the family of that pig who kept harassing her, finding it pretty interesting. She arrives at his room and greets him. He tells her he won the auction, but it seems the mineral there isn't amber. He asks her how she was able to give him that advice. He thinks to himself that she might have become an abyss user. She answers him with, yes. She thinks that the truth is way too complicated, so it's easier to just agree. The Duke remembers his daughter-in-law, Rosalind's mother, who didn't look like her, but her eyes now look exactly like her mother's. He recalls how his daughter-in-law was poisoned by Churty's poison, but refused the antidote because it would harm the fetus, and how she died right after giving birth, while his son was desperately searching for a new antidote. Under these circumstances, the Duke realizes that Rosalind, who was born weak and sickly, must have been an absolute nightmare for his son Churty. He was terrified his daughter would die the exact same way his wife did, poisoned by his own venom. Because of this fear, he became even more unstable than before, treating her like a greenhouse flower and getting wary of anyone who came near her, to the point where he couldn't even bring himself to get close to her. Time passed while everyone remained unsure how to deal with her, and she grew up to be even shyer around her father. Even when the Duke tried to fix things now, she would just go silent, turn pale, and run away. So he gave up on his attempts, using the excuse that it was better not to upset her. But she's completely changed since coming back from the brink of death. It's like she's attained enlightenment or something. She became detached, blunt, and dry, as if there was no emotion left inside her. And now that she has an ability, she's trying to escape the nest he spent his whole life building just so his kids could live in peace. The Duke decides he can't let that happen, especially since she calls him by his official title instead of Grandpa. She asks him if he finds that title annoying. Then she tells him that, come to think of it, she isn't really a Billion, just an illegitimate child. He tells her that doesn't matter, because Billion blood runs through her veins, and blames his foolish son Churty for not telling her the truth yet. The Duke decides to end the lies right now. He had left it to his son to handle, but things just got worse. Then he reveals the truth to her, confirming that Rosalind Billion is not an illegitimate child. He explains that she is properly registered in the family registry, and she really is his only granddaughter and Churty's only daughter. And that after clearing this up, he tells her to go talk to her father to get the details. She's shocked, since she never doubted she was an illegitimate child up until the moment she died. She realizes her father never explicitly told her that. Maybe this misunderstanding was just a terrible illusion born from the harsh circumstances the family faced, and a self-defense mechanism because she didn't want to get hurt anymore. As she's leaving, her grandfather tells her he's not good with emotional words, but reminds her of her suicide attempt, and how his youngest son, Churdy, completely lost his mind. He adds that he's clumsy at expressing himself, but there was never a single moment he hated her. He guarantees her that, admitting he was so busy he didn't even notice how the roses were growing inside the garden. She decides to go check it out for herself right away. When she knocks on her father's door, he tells her to get lost. He yells at her, asking if she wants to get poisoned and die. He opens the door angrily but is shocked to see her. He warns her that this place is dangerous, and it'll be a pain for him if she gets sick again. She coldly asks if he's worried about the bad air here because she's been weak since childhood. He gets flustered. She tells him that all this time she thought he hated her. He realizes he couldn't get a single word out right, which is why he was conveying everything through letters all this time. The moment he feels nervous, harsh words just come out of him as a defense mechanism. Now, with this sudden conversation with his daughter, he's terrified of hurting her again. She asks if he's going to keep her standing outside, complaining that the air is heavy and her nose hurts. He offers to give her an antidote and asks her to wait upstairs, but she refuses, saying she likes it here. He suggests the drawing room next door, but then he remembers the place hasn't been cleaned and has basically become a storage room for chemicals. She sarcastically asks if she should just go back if he doesn't want her around, and he immediately refuses. He lets her in but asks her to wait a second so he can clean up the mess. She walks in and notices how dirty the place is. He tells her to sit down and drink the antidote, apologizing for the tea he's about to bring. She realizes her grandfather's words were spot on and decides to ask him for what she needs right away. She asks if he has ever attended a banquet before. He says no and asks why she's asking. She thinks about how he didn't just skip social events himself, but banned her from attending too. That's why he barely showed up to her coming-of-age ceremony, and she never had a proper debut party. But she tells him she has to attend the upcoming Imperial Palace banquet to smoothly break off her engagement. She asks if he has formal clothes for banquets. Then she catches him off guard by asking him to attend the banquet with her, but adds that she'll go with Garen instead. He flies into a rage and flat out refuses, declaring he'd rather go himself than let her spend time with that bastard. She smirks, knowing all along he'd react this way. He asks when the banquet is, but he's worried about his condition. She notices he's still using his ability even now. He suggests wearing more control devices. She asks if he means the devices made of soul stones, since he's already wearing a ton of them. And she reminds him she heard that wearing more of them causes greater pain because they forcefully suppress his power. He replies that it doesn't matter as long as she stays safe. She tells him she doesn't recommend it, believing that's the reason for his dark, pale complexion. Then she offers him a deal, making it a condition that if he accompanies her to the banquet, he has to promise her 3 things. First, to stay calm at the banquet no matter what happens. Second, to move his room upstairs, because staying in a place like this would make anyone depressed. And finally, to dress properly, even if he has to cut his hair. He agrees to everything, but she tells him that on that day, she wants to stand out more than anyone else. He remembers how his late wife told him he looks like his mother when he smiles. He had been looking for that smile all this time, and it was right in front of him. He promises her that if she smiles like that again, there's nothing he won't do for her. The invitation for the regular imperial banquet arrives, which is held 4 times a year. It's an important occasion for socializing and discussing big matters. Every noble and their heir is expected to attend, but today, for the first time, the entire Billion family enters together, catching everyone's eye. The attendees start whispering, wondering about their sudden appearance, remembering Rosalind's scandal at her debut party. That was the Rosalind Billion of this world, gloomy and stuttering, but the current one is completely different. Everyone is amazed by her beauty and elegance. One lady recognizes her dress from Blois Boutique, realizing she's the one who booked it. The nobles gather around the Duke and his sons. She sees this as totally normal, since everyone wants to build connections with the Billion family. Before the crowd gets any bigger, she decides to go grab a drink. Her father offers to go with her, but she tells him everyone is looking for him, asking him to stay put while she gets him a drink too. She feels a bit sorry for him, but realizes he's already exhausted and doesn't need to deal with this crowd as well. She notices he looks really sharp after dressing up properly. Suddenly, Baron Gilbert appears again. He greets her, admiring her new look. She coldly asks him if his cattle business is going well. He corrects his name and job, so she pretends she made a mistake, saying she just saw a pig wandering in front of her. He mocks her, saying a lady like her doesn't know much about the outside world, and that a woman's place is at home. Baron Robert approaches Rosalind and reminds her of his previous offer. He had offered to be her training partner since she's an innocent lady who knows nothing. She smiles with contempt, thinking to herself that he's a walking pig who doesn't know his place. Then she smashes the drink glass over his head. He drops to the ground, shocked by what just happened. He screams at her, accusing her of being crazy as he notices blood on his face. She kicks him hard and asks if he knows who the real psycho is here. She tells him she knows he's been harassing everyone, from the helpless commoners on his lands to the terrified noble ladies. She assures him she's none of them. She's exactly what he called her: crazy, reckless, and unhinged. She tells him there are women in this world who live outside the little box he's confined himself to. He screams in pain, so she kicks him again while saying, "Oops." Before things go too far, the Duke steps in, grabs him, and angrily asks what he thinks he's doing to his granddaughter. Her father also comes over to check on her. He notices her injured ankle and flares up with rage. He grabs the Baron, furiously asking what he was trying to do to his daughter. The Baron falsely claims that she was the one who harassed him first. Churdy yells in his face, "You lying bastard." While people start whispering about him harassing Lady Billion, the Baron screams, calling for help from his father, who suddenly appears. The Duke orders everyone to back off, announcing he'll handle this himself. The Baron's father is terrified, despite the rumors that the Duke has become a toothless old tiger. He's a monster who conquered the underworld with his own strength, known as the Ruthless Butcher. He realizes that if he admits this fool is his son right now, he might get his head chopped off. On top of that, it's said that Churdy loses control of his toxic ability when he's angry, and he's scared he might die too. He decides to abandon his son to save his own family. Seeing this, Churdy's rage builds up, and he vows to kill him for daring to accuse his daughter. Rosalind steps in and asks her father to stop. She reminds him that he's losing control of his power again. The Baron gets affected by the poison and starts screaming. He becomes a laughingstock among the nobles, who talk about his shameful actions. He picks up a broken piece of glass, while the Duke tells his granddaughter to show no mercy to a monster like him, telling her to drink plenty of water just in case. The Baron thinks angrily that she's actually worth looking at now, but she humiliated him after everything he did for her. He decides to attack her and ruin her face, but before he can reach her, the third prince appears and takes the hit for her. The prince gets cut by the glass piece. Rosalind looks at the blood on the glass and wonders if Arma got hurt because of her yet again. Every time he throws himself in front of her like this, she's forced to recall memories she'd rather forget. She remembers how he told her to run while he faced their enemies. He was always a reckless guy who threw himself in harm's way without hesitation. He reassures her he's fine and asks if she's hurt. Her father gets furious and orders the guards to arrest him. The Duke rushes to check on her while the prince worries. She tells him she's fine, but for a second she felt like her heart stopped. She thought she was about to lose him again while he was protecting her. Her grandfather tells her he'd protect her 1,000 times if necessary, and the prince reassures her that he'll stand in front of her whenever needed. She thinks that even though a lot of things have changed, they haven't changed at all. She feels something inside her breaking, since she had already resigned herself to living alone. She used to think this second life was just a long continuation, neither good nor bad. Her grandfather calls out to her, asking if she's crying. She wonders why these caring words touch her heart more than loneliness does. Suddenly, she feels dizzy and faints. She swears to herself never to let herself become this weak again. The next morning, she wakes up in an unfamiliar place. From the lavish decor, she realizes she's in the Imperial Palace. She remembers collapsing in the banquet hall due to a fever. She had completely forgotten that she was weak at this point in her past life. She decides to visit the library since she's still the prince's fiancé. She realizes the commotion was bigger than expected, but she'll try to use the situation to her advantage. Meanwhile, in the Emperor's office, the prince asks him to release Baron Robert. The Emperor is surprised by his request, since the incident escalated after his intervention as a royal. He asks him what he's planning. The prince replies that the Emperor is the one who was planning. The Emperor thinks about how his son resembles his late mother, Cecilia. He remembers she was his only true love, and that he faked her death to hide her away and love her freely. As a result, Arma grew up as an illegitimate child and lost all interest in the throne and power. He believes his son is the most suited to be emperor and wonders about his sudden intervention now. He notices the pile of petitions from the Robert family, realizing they're trying to save their heir. The prince tells him he heard Baron Robert officially apologize to the Billion family too. He adds that he doesn't want his brother's close friend executed, so the matter should end here. He sees this as enough punishment for a mistake. The Emperor mocks him, saying that a calculating person like him makes mistakes. He tells him he lined his pockets well thanks to this incident, so he'll release him. The prince comments that the Baron only has one son, and he completely ruined his upbringing. The Emperor mocks him, so he replies that he hasn't completely failed. After all, he has an excellent candidate right in front of him. A messenger walks in and tells them Lady Billion has disappeared. The prince is shocked, forgetting for a moment that he's in front of his father. The messenger tells him her family is looking for her, so he gets ready to leave immediately. The Emperor smirks, finding things interesting now that he sees his son so flustered over her. He wonders if he's really become devoted to her. Rosalind goes to the Imperial Library, but finds that the information isn't as abundant as she expected. She knows a lot about Imperial affairs from her family, but she was hoping to find info on Kalata, the Savage Land. She decides to grab a bite since she skipped lunch. Suddenly, she senses someone's presence. It's the third prince who tells her his name. He apologizes for scaring her and tells her everyone is looking for her, adding that he was looking for her too. Rosalind notices another scratch on the prince's cheek, but he tells her everyone was worried about her, especially her father and grandfather who almost turned the imperial palace upside down looking for her. The prince thinks to himself that he needs to reassure the young duke quickly, while she's surprised that her father cares about her more than she thought. She always saw her father as someone scary and distant, but she never imagined she'd think of him this way. She apologizes for worrying them, claiming she lost track of time while reading. She tells him she'll go back to her family before causing any more trouble, but the prince stops her. He asks if he can accompany her on her journey to Kalata. Rosalind coldly rejects his request, asserting there's no reason for him to come. He asks anxiously if there's a problem with him, so she says no and tells him everyone is waiting. She leaves, leaving him shocked and heartbroken. He expected her to at least explain why she refused so he could convince her. The prince thinks about how Rosalind never looked down on him, unlike others who treated him like garbage because he's an illegitimate prince. He and his mother had to live as if they didn't exist. His biggest revenge was escaping the emperor who wanted to make him his heir. He pretended to be a fool, and the first thing he truly owned in his life was his engagement to her. He had heard the rumors about her, the ugly duckling who was in a similar spot as him. Maybe that's why he wanted to be kind to her, the one who always hid her true feelings behind a mask and never let anyone get close. Without knowing anything, she accepted the hand he extended to her. She accepted him just as he was, which is why he cared so much about this game of pretend. He wanted to show her some kindness, since she'd be left all alone after he's gone. He remembers getting news that she was on the palace roof, and how there was never any hint of death in their casual chats. He wondered if he was the only one playing this game of pretend. After coming back from the brink of death, she seemed like a completely different person. He wonders if she has truly abandoned him now, and he figures she chose his older brother to accompany her because he matches her ideal type. He naively thought she did that for his sake when she confronted his brother, but maybe she wanted someone confident and brave like his brother all along. He imagines her with his brother, feeling jealous and terrified. He follows her and asks why she chose his brother to accompany her to Kalata, and if it's because he's the ideal type she mentioned. She remembers using that as an excuse. She assures him that she needs someone like him when going to Kalata. The prince realizes he was right, and he doesn't want to lose her to his brother. He remembers that the only moments he could truly breathe were when he was talking to her about ordinary things. Rosalind gets ready to leave, so he begs her not to go. He shouts that he'll become the ideal type she wants. He promises her he'll become someone with strong convictions, manly and fierce. So he'll go with her as part of the Kalata delegation. She wonders why he's so persistent. She decides to agree since the more cards she holds, the better. The prince is overjoyed by her agreement. Rosalind now realizes why he tried to prevent the break-off and accompany her. He's the kind soul who stayed by her side until the very end. He's worried about his weak fiancé who made such a desperate choice. The more she tries to push him away, the more anxious and desperate he gets. She decides to show him during this diplomatic mission that she'll be just fine without him, so he can leave her without any regrets. A few days later, her father anxiously asks if she really has to go to Kalata. She reminds him it was the final day of the banquet, asking how he could not know what the emperor announced. It was officially announced that she's joining the Kalata delegation as a diplomat. He tells her it's the 11th time she's asking him, and her answer won't change. But he's still worried because she's weak and the place is far and dangerous. She tells him that her heading out to the library at the Imperial Palace made him even more anxious. After that day, he moved his bedroom downstairs next to her room. He started visiting her all the time, even bringing her lunch right after they had breakfast together, just because she casually mentioned she was hungry. She even let him work in her room since his presence outside was distracting her. She never expected him to actually bring his work and stay in her room. Then he hands her a dagger. She remembers this is the sword Carmel always carried around proudly, claiming her father gave it to her. Her father tells her he's the one who made it. He forged it by pouring his abyss ability into molten metal made of special elements. And even though it holds his power, it'll never harm the user. Anyone, even without the abyss, can temporarily use the power stored in this sword. Rosalind realizes this is the abyss weapon, the core masterpiece that caused her family to lose their massive fortune in her past life. Macroxia stole this work after Carmel smuggled the artisans away, dealing a crushing blow to the family. She finds the dagger light and easy to grip, unlike standard daggers made for men. Her father asks what she thinks, so she asks when he started making it. He tells her he started about 3.5 years ago. She realizes he discovered the metal about 5 years ago, but processing it was difficult. She wonders if the dagger from her past life was meant for her too. She dismisses this as a useless thought, deciding not to indulge in empty expectations again. Her father tries to tell her something else about the dagger but hesitates. He realizes that because he lacked courage, he and Rosalind grew distant from each other. This time he decides to speak up properly. Having learned from his deep regret, he gathers his courage and tells her this dagger was made to be given to her. He tells her that when he first discovered the metal, even before deciding what to make with it, he wanted to give it to her. He believed his very first piece absolutely had to be hers, even if he failed to deliver it to her. Rosalind notices the dagger is engraved with the word Rose, her nickname. She realizes the dagger from her past life was probably intercepted by Carmel too. She feels relieved that it found its true owner this time and thanks her father. Her father suggests starting a business with this technology and gathering skilled artisans. Rosalind asks him to temporarily put hiring artisans on hold. He apologizes, explaining he needs to show results quickly since he used a lot of family funds for research. She tells him she's worried about the technology leaking, but he reassures her that the artisans he has in mind are reliable and loyal. Rosalind thinks to herself that those artisans are exactly the problem. In her past life, they were easily won over by Macroxia. Even though they got rid of Carmel, the remaining lackeys might be plotting something again. She asks him to discuss it with her grandfather and move forward slowly. As for the financial side, the mine her grandfather bought will turn a profit soon. She asks him to trust her and wait a bit. Her father is thrilled because she asked him for a favor for the first time. And since it's his daughter's very first request, he has no choice but to agree. Rosalind thanks him for his understanding, thinking that once she wraps up the Collada matters, she'll bring the artisans from there herself. 3 days before leaving for Collada, all preparations are complete, and Rosalind is ready to set off in her carriage, making its way through a dark forest. She thinks about Collada, which Empire citizens often look down on, but remembers from her past life that they were a powerful adversary that waged war against the Empire. To succeed in her diplomatic negotiations with them, she needs as many trump cards as possible, and luckily for her, she holds valuable info from her past life. Knowing a trump card exists, she arrives in disguise with her bodyguard at a secret auction house, where she's welcomed by the title, Lady Red Cat. The guard checks her ticket, then lets her inside. The place has strict rules. Weapons are banned, only one companion is allowed, and the mask provided by the host must be worn. From the outside, the place looks like an old abandoned mansion, which can only be entered by following all these rules. Inside this seemingly abandoned building, there's a door leading deep underground. This place is a secret auction house known as the Ant Hill, a black market where everything from gems and rare animals to monsters and humans is sold. A member of the Macroxia organization owns this place, making it one of their bases. She realizes that even if she investigates the auction house, she won't be able to reach the king of the organization. But her goal today isn't the king anyway. A guide asks her if she's interested in a specific item. She replies that she's looking for slaves. He tells her she's in luck, as a lot of high-quality goods arrived today. He takes her inside, where she sees a horrific scene of people locked up in cages. The terrible sight continues with people treated like cargo, screaming in fear. She feels utterly disgusted by humans being treated like livestock, even though she thought she'd seen every kind of horror. He asks her what age group or gender she's looking for. She specifies that she wants a male teenager, so he leads her to the requested section. Suddenly, she stops and tells him she wants to see that item. She found him, the exact reason she came to the Ant Hill. She recognizes his identity through his bright green eyes, a unique trait of the Collada tribe, along with his silver hair and the red tattoo on his face, which are traits of the ruling class. He's the second prince of Collada. The guide congratulates her on her sharp eye for recognizing the tribe, but he adds that these barbarians are naturally savage, so capturing them cost a fortune. She asks him about his price. He tells her it's 698 million ulang, a massive amount compared to the average slave price of 100 to 200 million. She realizes the price is ridiculous even with the tribe's rarity, and refusing to get ripped off, she offers 400 million. He tries to convince her, saying that once tamed, he'll become the ultimate slave, but she cuts him off with a sharp, enough. She warns him to stop playing games with her, and if he's trying to scam her, he better be ready for the consequences. Right at that moment, someone else pops up and offers to buy the kid for 500 million. A man wearing a gray wolf mask appears, with green eyes, completely covered to hide his skin color. She realizes he's from the Collada tribe and finds it annoying, as she wanted to leave before running into them. He rudely tells her she interrupted his negotiation, so she fires back that she negotiated first. He scoffs and says he can bid higher. She responds that this room is reserved for VIP guests to buy before the auction, and it's customary to yield to the person who showed interest first, calling him a rookie. She keeps insulting him, saying that acting like a wild dog looking for a fight is just in his nature, and the mask he's wearing suits him perfectly. She thinks about how most citizens view the Kalata people as barbarians due to their different culture and long conflicts. Personally, she doesn't want to insult the people of her friend from her past life, Senshiro, but for her plan, she has no choice. And she's sure her friend will know she doesn't mean it. She asks the guide for the price of an adult member of the Kalata tribe. He answers that adults are hard to capture and tame, so they rarely hit the market, and their price starts at 1 billion. She looks at the masked man and sarcastically says that such a rare item is standing right in front of them. He snaps, threatening to teach her a lesson to shut her up. She coldly fires back that his green eyes look exactly like the kid's. She dares him to take off his gloves if he has nothing to hide, since his skin color will reveal if he's from the tribe or not. The guide asks the man to take off his gloves based on her suggestion. The man yells angrily, calling them bastards, outraged at how they treat a VIP guest like this, while his bodyguard steps forward to protect him, warning them to back off. Suddenly, a voice from behind asks what all the noise is about, telling them they're disturbing the other guests. The man and his bodyguard are shocked, as the person appeared behind them without a single sound or presence. The man in the red mask tells them there's no need for all this fuss. All they need to do is check his skin color, and making more noise just makes him look more suspicious. He adds that once verified, they will fully compensate him for their rudeness, and asks him again to take off his gloves and show his skin. She recognizes the red mask. He's a top official at the auction house. She exposes the masked man's identity, calling him Jambaga, the great prince of Kalata, and tells him he has nowhere left to run. She remembers that in her past life, Jambaga was jealous of his brother, the king, and sneaked into the empire himself to get rid of his nephew. He actually killed the second prince and blamed the empire, sparking the war. The king of Kalata died in battle, and the emperor was wounded and passed away shortly after. But in this life, where she has so much to protect, Rosalind refuses to let war break out. So she will save the prince, gain the upper hand in negotiations with Kalata, and stop the war. The official concludes that Jambaga is the same type as the displayed merchandise. A slave, Jambaga orders his guard to clear a path and run for the exit. The official steps in, saying he can't just stand by if they cause such a mess. He uses a mysterious power to capture him and his guard. He keeps screaming and threatening. The official laughs, saying that taming him will be very amusing, but he adds that his voice is too loud, so he slams him to the ground. The official thanks Rosalind, as thanks to her they managed to get 2 valuable pieces of merchandise, and offers her a reward. She thinks there's no reason to turn down a reward from an Abyss user of this level, and decides to make a tough demand. She asks him to give her the kid and the 2 captives for 500 million. He laughs and jokes, "Maybe you should dream bigger." She assures him she's completely serious, will pay right here and now, and adds 100 million as a finder's fee. She hands the official a check for 1 billion ulang bearing the Wilbred family seal, and he sarcastically comments, scoffing at her giving him a service fee and finding the whole thing highly amusing. He offers to personally accompany her, looking forward to seeing how much more money she'll spend. She coldly rejects his offer, saying she doesn't thank him for it, asserting that seeing how arrogant he is, he's definitely not her type, declares she doesn't need a guide, and finally tells him to take the money and leave. He asks her what kind of man she prefers. She answers that she prefers someone kind and polite, unlike him. She adds that someone with a beautiful smile like Arma would be nice too. He tells her she's sending mixed signals and asks her to pick just one type, which flusters her. He shrugs it off and offers her the 3 of them for 1 billion, so she replies that for that amount, he needs to throw in something extra. She asks for the pink diamond jewelry set from this auction. He laughs, saying the stones start at 500 million, and accuses her of doing this on purpose because she knows their market value. She's surprised he knows her identity as a princess of the empire, and praises his information guild, which is said to know everything. She tells him what an honor it is to be recognized by a con artist. He offers her another deal. He'll give her everything she wants for free, if she becomes his queen. She ignores his offer and says, "Let's make it 1.5 billion, telling him to keep his hands to himself. She tells him she'll overlook his rudeness just this once, adding that if he knows who she is, he'll know this is a generous amount. He thinks to himself that he tried to act like the type she said she liked, but looking at her reaction, he wonders if she really hates guys like that. He admits to himself that he doesn't know how to handle her. She leaves the bizarre place filled with strange people, relieved that everything went smoothly, but she regrets that it cost her 1.5 billion. Now she decides to go check on her precious prince, who must be shaking with fear. She approaches the carriage and greets him. She notices the little prince isn't scared. Instead, he's shaking with rage, looking like he's about to pounce on her at any second. She realizes that despite his young age, he possesses the fierce spirit of the tribe, and feels relieved that he's still wearing the restraint device. Rosalind suggests to the little prince that they talk for a bit before leaving, introducing herself by saying her name is Rosalind Billion. She tells him he can call her Rosalind or Nona, then asks if he's hurt, hungry, or cold. She tells him that in a few days she will head to Calada with the diplomatic delegation. She adds that she plans to take him with her. He flies into a rage, screaming and accusing her of mocking him. He keeps shouting, wondering how she dares trick him with these words, and what she's trying to gain through this hypocrisy. He proudly declares he's a member of the Great Calada and won't be fooled by her sweet talk. He insists he won't fall into her trap. She smiles, remembering she heard the Calada people value beauty, and decides to use that to her advantage, asking if he likes her face, adding that he hasn't learned how to treat a lady yet. She puts a blanket over him and provocatively asks if he doesn't want to return to his homeland, and he replies in confusion, "Who said that?" She asks him to give her his hands for a second, and he's shocked to see her undoing his chains. He wonders in bewilderment why she's removing the restraint. She answers that she didn't buy him to be her slave. She explains to him that he's not a criminal, so he shouldn't go back home wearing shackles. He thinks to himself that she looks fragile even among the weaklings of the empire, wondering what she's thinking, and what if he attacks her. She invites him to sit and talk calmly, and he agrees. He asks her about going with the delegation, calling her a weakling who will physically collapse on the way. She pretends to be scared, asking how he dares shout in the face of a helpless woman, making him flustered. He sincerely apologizes, admitting his behavior was unacceptable. He explains to her that he was tricked by someone, and when he woke up he found himself here. So he suspected she was trying to deceive him too. He admits he doesn't fully trust her yet. She thinks that since he's part of the delegation, maybe he's one of the few in the empire who holds goodwill toward Calada, and asks him if saving him has to do with the delegation's work. She accepts his apology, and he wonders why she keeps smiling, thinking that if she's lying, he can just use force and escape. She reads his mind. As a kid, his face is an open book. She reflects on how long it's been since someone outside her family called her weak. She realizes that to someone from Calada, who possess superhuman physical strength, she definitely looks that way. They're a dangerous ethnic group said to have the strength of 100 soldiers per person, where even their kids can kill an adult man from the empire. She remembers a famous story about a small kingdom that kidnapped the daughter of Calada's king, so the king himself led a few guards and completely wiped them out. But they aren't heartless barbarians. If she returns their son along with his kidnapper, they'll definitely show her goodwill. She figures it doesn't hurt to do some groundwork in advance, feeling like she's won him over. He tells her that if she really takes him back to Calada, he'll ask his father to pay her back for his price plus a service fee. She turns down the money and tells him they need to clear one thing up. He suspiciously thinks to himself that she wants something else from him. He wonders if she knows he's a prince and plans to use this to force unreasonable demands on Calada. She asks him to stop talking down to her and show some respect, catching him off guard. She explains to him that standing on equal footing with a future partner is extremely important. She adds that the way he treats her as a prince will affect how the rest of Calada treats her. He argues that he doesn't show respect to anyone weaker than him, so she reminds him that she's the one who saved him. He replies in confusion that the kidnappers use dirty tricks, and she agrees with him. She tells him she knows Calada's reputation well, and knows he wouldn't have gone down easily. He realizes she seems genuine and isn't making fun of him. He thinks to himself that he used to believe the empire was full of cowards, but she stays calm and bold even when he gets mad. Plus, she's kind, composed, and has a beautiful face. The more he looks at her, the more she seems like the perfect bride. He asks her age, so she replies that she's 17 and asks him his age. He tells her he's 12 years old and his name is Batard, admiring her for already carrying such a heavy responsibility as a member of a diplomatic delegation. She tells him Batard is a beautiful name, and he mentions he has an older brother and sister. He adds that his brother, Ban, is 17, extremely smart with an amazing fighting instinct, and is the most handsome and strongest in all of Calada. She asks why he's suddenly telling her about his brother, and he replies that he thought it might be useful since they share the same taste. He declares that if respect is what she wants, he'll make a special exception for her. He adjusts his posture, realizing he shouldn't point fingers. He respectfully asks if she'll really take him back to Calada, calling her my lady, and she notices he's actually trying to listen to her and comply with her words. She thinks it's a weird way to show respect, but she's glad a proud kid like him is trying so hard, assuring him she isn't lying. He thanks her for saving him and vows to return the favor. She tells him she'll count on his promise and asks that they get along, so he extends his hand to her. He takes her hand and tells her he's looking forward to it, looking friendly now. She thinks that once trade is established between Calada and the duchy, his goodwill and safety will be the cornerstone of their relationship, and the deal will be a huge help to the duchy. She bitterly recalls her past life, when the duchy was in danger because of Carmel, and how she coldly rejected her uncle Aegis's plea for help, which still stings like a thorn in her heart. In this life, she wants to remove that thorn and help her family. Meanwhile, at the Wilbred mansion, Garen receives a letter and a package from Rosalind. He wasn't expecting anything from her and decides to read the letter first. In her letter, she apologizes for spending so much of his money, explaining that half the amount went as a gift to the Marchioness on behalf of her oblivious husband, and he finds a luxurious jewelry box. The letter continues, acknowledging that what he did, bringing her into this world, was no small feat and gave her a lot to think about, so she thanks him, which he sees as a very long way of saying, thanks. He easily deduces what happened based on the amount spent and what she told him before. He thinks to himself that her way of thinking is very similar to his, which is why they clash so much, making it even more entertaining. He recalls that Rosalind didn't catch his attention at first. He remembers a past incident where another princess insulted her, so she angrily grabbed her. He used to think she was trashy and foolish, no different from any other brainless noblewoman. But everything changed after she left the Duke's palace, transforming after facing hardships from nobles holding grudges against her. She gathered business intel on various noble families and sold it to their competitors. To avoid detection, she carefully analyzed relationships among nobles and selectively sold info only to families that wouldn't cause mutual harm. Moreover, she knew nobles would consider dealing with an exiled princess a disgraceful secret, using this psychology to completely hide her identity. Among the info she sold, she caused all the families his family planned to deal with to sign with a rival province. This included a project the Wilbred family was pushing forward, and for the first time in his life, he became one of the fools robbed in broad daylight. At first, he was uncharacteristically angry and started tracking her down, but the more he uncovered, the more her meticulous planning piqued his curiosity. When he finally discovered that the name behind all this was none other than Rosalind Billion, the notorious Villainess, he couldn't help but laugh out loud. He looks at the gift and thinks that, just like before, she still has excellent taste. He decides not to waste her thoughtful gift, using it as an opportunity to talk to his wife. He knocks on his wife's door, Marchioness Selina Wilbred, and she lets him in. He apologizes for dropping in suddenly. She asks what brings him at this time, so he reminds her he asked her to set aside time for afternoon tea. He notices she already started without him. She coldly replies that she doesn't want small talk. Then she straight up asks him when he's going to grant her a divorce. He tells her a divorce is out of the question. She complains that she suffocates around him, so he answers. That's why he only visits her once a day during tea time, asking her to look at the gift. She accuses him of being obsessed with work and never caring about her at all, not knowing why he's suddenly acting like this. He tells her he has feelings for her. She takes his words as a joke, telling him to leave her alone, or to ignore her like he used to if he won't grant a divorce. He explains to her that he just wanted to give her a gift he received. He asks her to open it, telling her that the kid he wants to adopt asked him to give it to her, making her wonder in confusion what kid he's talking about. She asks why he's really doing this, admitting she's the one who proposed this marriage, so she didn't resent his indifference, believing their relationship would improve over time. But when her parents died in a carriage accident, and even while she was drowning in despair, he showed her nothing but formal courtesy. Selina realizes she was wrong and is now aware that he's a person who doesn't know how to love. She tells him she never wanted to endure this terrible pain again, so she gave up on everything, wondering why he's doing this now. She begs him to stop torturing her, telling him she'll stop asking for a divorce if it bothers him, as she didn't mean to tarnish the Marquise's honor. Garen tells her this jewel was sent by Lady Billion, asking her not to throw it away even if she hates him. He wishes her a good day, tells her he'll be back tomorrow at the same time, and leaves. Selina is left alone, deeply moved. Meanwhile, at the Billion mansion, Rosalind confronts her uncle Ian, who sits in shock. She tells him to quit the Macroxia organization, revealing she saw a future where he dies, causing the entire family to be destroyed and everyone to die. Ian staggers, unable to process all this info. He yells in her face, asking if she jumped to her death, which awakened her abyss ability and the future she saw. She asks how he knew, while he wonders how she knew. She warns him to cut ties with Macroxia and give up on the medicinal herb import deal he's working on. She reveals that in the parallel world, he was following direct orders from the king, got caught and executed, and she checked his background here and found him doing the exact same thing. She warns him to drop it now if he doesn't want to be falsely accused of assassinating the royal family. She adds that luckily, only he and the king know about it so he can still back out. He shouts in anger as he made sure it was a strict secret so no one in the family would find out. He tries to regain his composure, figuring only his niece found out, and that he can't abandon his plan to catch that person over something like this, angrily asking what she knows about giving orders to an adult. Rosalind tells him that even if he does, he won't catch the king of Macroxia. The king isn't someone you can catch just by trying hard, and that won't bring his late sister back. She talks about her aunt, Lily Billion. The day the illegitimate child Ian ran away from home out of an inferiority complex, his sister Lily anxiously followed him despite her injured leg. Assassins from Macroxia targeting the Billion family chased them, and Lily died after sacrificing herself as bait to save her brother. Rosalind recalls that the king of Macroxia told her in the parallel world that he thought she'd become the queen because he was disappointed by the ugly behavior of the Billion family. Ian asks her in shock who told her that. He asks if her father, that gloomy bastard, told her. So she replies she discovered it thanks to her abyss ability. He yells at her to leave him alone, so she orders him to get a grip if he doesn't want to ruin the family. She orders him to stop thinking about the dead, so he gets mad and asks how she dares. He accuses her of just spouting whatever comes to her mind. She fires back that he's the one getting mad at her, when he's the one who left her aunt with the injured leg and ran away by himself. She adds that he kept quiet about it afterward, asking if she said anything untrue. He backs away, shocked by the memory of that incident. Rosalind tells him that even if he doesn't look for him, she's the one who will catch the king of Macroxia, adding that she has a weak constitution and won't live long anyway, so it's better if she makes the move. He's shocked by her words. She tells him that's all she has to say, and her ears hurt from all this shouting, so she can't stay any longer. He begs her to wait. Rosalind leaves while Ian's legs collapse under him as he calls out to her. She thinks to herself that he was loud until the end, and she only scolded him just in case he causes trouble while she's away. She hopes he snaps out of it after this warning, thinking that if he doesn't, she'll ask her grandfather to break his legs. Time passes, and it's the day of departure for Carlotta. In the central garden of the Billion Duchy, her father is still explaining things to her. He reminds her that she must remember the instructions for the tools containing the Abyss ability to know their capabilities. She tells him she's heard enough explanations, and she'll only take the stunning crossbow imbued with her grandfather's abilities and a heat-retaining blanket. She asks if he's going to keep arguing with her until the day she leaves, telling him she's going to check on the delegation members. She orders a maid to give the blanket to Batard. She thinks the journey might be cold for him even if he's dressed warmly, looking for the members of the imperial delegation. Suddenly, Prince Yuldian appears and angrily asks how she convinced his father to make a half-blood the delegation representative instead of him. Rosalind finds him loud, wondering why there are so many annoying people. Noticing the chatterbox arrived right on time, and wondering if Arma has arrived yet. Yuldian asks where she's going, so she answers she's busy and walks right past him. She thinks that as the head of the delegation, and given Arma's personality, he must have arrived by now. Someone calls out to her. She turns to see a handsome man who looks like he has a bad attitude. She asks who he is, deducing from his clothes that he's royalty. The man gets flustered and asks if she's mocking him, making her think to herself that this look doesn't suit him at all. He reveals to her that he's Arma, shocking Rosalind. She remembers suggesting he practice appearing more confident and dominant since he's leading the envoy group, but she never expected him to nail it this perfectly. Batard finds her and calls her name. He approaches her, saying he's been looking all over for her. He asks who the man is, so Rosalind tells him he's the third prince and the head of their expedition, and he replies he sees that, asking what he is to her. Rosalind answers that he's her fiancé, shocking Batard. She explains they agreed to break off the engagement as soon as their business with Carlotta is done. He feels relieved. He tells Rosalind that people in Carlotta don't care about a partner's past at all. He reassures her not to worry, while Arma glares at him with resentment. Arma tells her the procession is almost ready and asks if they should head to the carriage. Rosalind asks him and Batard to go ahead of her, as she needs to do one final check. Arma thinks she's planning to ride with the second prince. Both men expected to ride alone with Rosalind. She tells Arma that she informed him about what happened to Batard. She adds that she feels she needs to take care of him herself, touching Batard's heart. Arma realizes that if he and the second prince ride together, he'll annoy him the entire trip. Rosalind tells them the carriage is huge and there's plenty of room for everyone, and that she'll catch up with them. The two men's plan to ride alone with Rosalind fails. The caravan begins its journey, and Rosalind rides with Arma and Batard, looking out the window to see the land of Carlotta. Carlotta is a union of many nomadic tribes, named after the strongest tribe at its center, bordered by the ocean to the north and the desert to the south, with high plateaus and mountain ranges running through it. Its people wander across this rugged and unique land, where the salt desert acts as a natural barrier between them and the empire. But their incredible strength allows them to cross the harsh deserts freely. They frequently raid the empire's borderlands, and when pursued by imperial forces, they vanish into the towering mountains or outmaneuver them on horseback, making them the toughest enemy the empire has ever faced. They are so strong that conquering them is nearly impossible, but they're also way too dangerous to be left as enemies, so they must become allies. The delegation arrives at Carlotta's main camp, located high in the Carlotta mountain ranges. They are welcomed warmly. A man introduces himself as Bayan, the leader of Kalota. Arma introduces himself as the third prince and the head of the imperial envoys. They shake hands and Bayan tries to assert dominance, but he's surprised when Arma matches his strength with equal power. He laughs out loud, startling Prince Yuldian. Bayan apologizes, saying Arma truly deserves to lead these men. Then he asks about the identity of the lady with him. Rosalind introduces herself as Rosalind Billion, stating she came to help with the talks. Bayan admires her, saying he knows it's rude to say this so soon, but her eyes are striking and he asks if she has a partner. Rosalind thinks to herself that their actions are totally unpredictable, wondering if they always start with such personal questions. She answers that she doesn't have a lover but has a fiancé, pointing to Arma. Bayan looks a bit disappointed, and she tells him she brought him a gift. He's shocked to see his little brother, Batard. He scolds him and asks where he's been all this time. So Batard apologizes, saying he only intended to play outside for a few days. Bayan realizes that the man who caused his brother not to come home is right there with them. He sees his uncle Jambaga tied up and is shocked by how he was brought here. He hugs his brother, while his men check on the injured Jambaga and order treatment for him immediately. He angrily asks if anyone has any idea who this man is. Batard tries to explain, saying it's not like that, and that his uncle was the one who kidnapped him.